It seemed for years that Jey Uso's career was bound to be as a tag wrestler. There's absolutely no problem with this, as you can still reach legendary status as a tag team wrestler, with FTR being a perfect example of that. However, Jey Uso wanted more than just to be the other Uso. Jey Uso wanted to be remembered for not just being one half of something special, but to be that special wrestler. Luckily for him, he would get that opportunity and he would absolutely thrive in it. But let's backtrack a bit. How did a team of twins that seemed linked forever end? How did Jey Uso break out for being himself? That's what we talk about in this video. My name is Kosk, welcome to the wrestling universe, and this is the rise of main event Jey Uso. After a severe injury which writes Jimmy Uso off, it seemed Jey would also have to be forced to stay on the sidelines, as WWE at the time would not see the value of Jey Uso as a singles attraction. This would go on for months, but would suddenly change with another man who is now also forever linked with Jey Uso, and that man was the tribal chief Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns would return to the promotion at SummerSlam 2020 with a completely new character. He was no longer the smiling, heroic babyface he was for years. He was the egotistical, violent, power-hungry tribal chief, and with Paul Heyman by his side, he would quickly become a Universal Champion. After Roman won the Universal Championship, Jey Uso would return to TV and win a number one contender match to face his cousin Roman Reigns. This would start a historic rivalry between the two men, which would show how power-hungry Roman Reigns would be, consistently putting his own blood into horrible situations to get him to acknowledge him as the head of the table, the head of the family. After Roman Reigns would put his hands on an injured Jimmy Uso, he would get his wish as Jey Uso would acknowledge him to end his brother's suffering. This would start a reluctant partnership between the two men, as Jey would follow the orders of the tribal chief. But as the opportunities started to arise, Jey Uso started to embrace the role and follow his cousin with honor. He'd become the right-hand man, become main event Jey Uso, and have several top matches during this run, including against the likes of Daniel Bryan and Edge. Jimmy Uso would eventually return, but with no interest to join his brother's side, instead with the intention of rescuing him from the hands of Roman Reigns. However, Roman would eventually get his wish once again, as Jimmy would join his side after the typical emotional manipulation Roman would become known for, and thus began a historic run for the reunited Usos. This time, however, the Usos weren't just half of something special. They both had their unique personalities, which made both of them special individually. And as they would win the tag titles, it seemed the Bloodline was unstoppable, especially after the Usos' younger brother Solo Sikoa would join as the Enforcer, and Roman Reigns would unify the world titles against Brock Lesnar. They were an indestructible force within the WWE, and would continue to dominate the company following the Lesnar win. This is where we enter the Sami Zayn arc of the Bloodline, and one that would change Jey Uso's trajectory in the stable forever. Sami would start off as a comedy act, trying to get into a powerful stable to protect himself. But as time went on and the fans got behind Sami, and more importantly, Sami's disillusioned love and loyalty to the Bloodline grew, Zayn would eventually join the stable after proving himself to Roman Reigns. This would rub Jey Uso the wrong way, who not only saw Sami Zayn as someone using them, someone who wasn't even blood, but someone who got the easy way in after all the pain he went through. This hatred would eventually turn into love, as after Sami Zayn would turn on his best friend Kevin Owens to give the Bloodline the win in the brutal War Games match, Jey Uso would embrace Sami as a part of the family. Unfortunately for Jey, this was around the time the rest of the family would start to become disillusioned with Sami, as Roman's ego would take a hit with the popularity of Zayn. It seemed Sami's run in the bloodline would be over at the tribal court, but Jey Uso would defend Sami's honor, prolonging his run. Sami would be the one to put the dagger into the bloodline, however, as after a brutal assault on Kevin Owens, Sami would turn on the men who changed his life to defend a man who was more family to him than they'd ever be. The entire bloodline would assault Sami Zayn, except for one man, Jey Uso. Jey would walk out, thus walking out on the bloodline for weeks. And while Jey would eventually reconcile and turn on Sami, Roman would never forget this level of disrespect. Losing the tag titles at WrestleMania would be the final nail in the coffin for Roman, as after that, he would begin to treat the Usos with levels of disrespect that would cause the bloodline to fall apart. Jimmy Uso would be the first to turn on Roman, and after both sides tried to convince Jey Uso what to do, Jey would make his decision. That decision was to superkick Roman Reigns right in the face. After the years of emotional manipulation, Jey Uso would finally break through, see the light, and realize he's his own man. Jey would have a world title match against Roman Reigns at the following SummerSlam in a tribal combat match. Jey would be inches away from winning when his own brother Jimmy Uso would cost him, proclaiming he didn't want his brother to turn into the man Roman is. Jey Uso wouldn't buy this at all and realized it was all jealousy and leave his family and company behind as he would quit the WWE. This decision, however, wouldn't last too long, as convinced to come back by Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso would start afresh on Monday Night Raw. He would reconcile with several members of the Raw roster, such as Cody Rhodes and Sami Zayn, and even have a short tag title run with Cody, which would unfortunately end due to interference from Jey Uso, who would rejoin the Bloodline on SmackDown. And while that clash with the Bloodline seems inevitable once again, Jey Uso has continued to carve out his own identity on Monday Night Raw, with yeets going around, Scottish Warriors being super kicked, and main events to be had. The run of Jey Uso is one of change. He went from being just the other Uso to one of the most over stars in the entire company, and is a definite future world champion. We'll have to see where the future of Jey Uso lays. But for now, thank you for watching, subscribe if you're interested in content like this, and have a good day.